So, the cell phones say 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call a regular select board meeting to order. First thing is to adjust agenda, and I'll kick off the adjustments by saying I want to scratch item number 3 for now, because I know I asked to have a discussion about mandating the COVID vaccine, and my intent was definitely to have the town set a good example and to work for the general health and well-being of our community, but I understand that there are things that we should research before to have an educated discussion about that I haven't had time to look into because we've had a lot of other stuff going on. I've had a few townspeople ask me about that specifically, and I'll be sure to, if we do bring this back up on a future agenda, I'll be sure to reach out to them individually to make sure they know, because I think they'd like to have the opportunity to weigh in. So I ask that we axe that for tonight.
And do we need to add an executive session for personnel? Do we include John?
Session personnel to include the town manager. It would be nice to be able to cite the statute on that, but I can't off the top of my head. I knew it for a while. It's gone now. 313?
Is it on any of the other minutes?
We have
Anyway.
minutes of the last meeting.
Yeah, BSA 313.
Okay, Vermont statute saying it's 313. Okay. I also, I guess, have a question about item 1, because Michael wanted that added, and I'm not really sure what the intent was there. So we can leave it, and when we get to it, then we'll
Table it or something.
or do something. Okay. All right, so just those 2 changes, getting rid of item 3 and adding executive session.
Yeah.
So, you want a motion?
Please.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's everyone. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have, oh my goodness, do we have minutes to approve? The select board has been meeting quite frequently.
Every day.
Feels like
In some cases, every day in our search for a new town manager. Most of those meeting minutes are not very exciting because they mostly say we went into executive session to interview candidates. However,
Can we do them all in one, or do we have to?
oh my gosh, you want to do
I would like to make the motion that we approve the minutes as written for the regular, I'm just going to read them all out.
Yep.
For the regular select board meeting of August 19th, and the special meeting minutes of August 17th, August 18th, 2 meetings, August 18th, August 20th, August 23rd, August 25th, August 27th, August 31st, 1st, and September 1st of 2021.
So moved. Oh, she's
she
moving, I'm
moved it.
seconding.
You're seconding.
Right.
Any discussion or changes to any of those? All in favor of adopting them, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was everyone. Thank you, and thank you, Amanda, for taking most or all of those minutes for us. All right, I will get to that when I get to it. Next is communication from the audience. Is anybody here to address the select board about something that's not on the agenda as an item? Okay.
There isn't, can you just look at Michael's agenda?
Yeah, we should have, do we not have any extra? Usually Tommy has the sign-in sheet and the extra agendas. That's his job down there in the corner.
Sorry, I was saying, you have one.
All right. And do we have a sign-in sheet, or do you get everybody? Sign-in sheet up there. Okay. All right, where are we? Town manager's report. John Jewett.
All right, I'm gonna make this quick. We talked a couple weeks ago about Sunlight Surveying and put together a contract for them. They're actually starting to survey the road changes for Bailey Hazen Road.
This is where we're straightening out that crazy curve right at the bottom of the road, so
Right, yeah.
it's easier for trucks to exit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Little River surveying, I gave them a go-ahead to do the topographical survey of the areas in and around the pedestrian bridge.
Oh,
So we
great.
can find out where
We'll get that
the flood
taken
is,
care of.
flood levels are, sort of the high water marks are and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And then Paul Senesac, I gave him the go-ahead to come in and sample the wastewater lagoons. It looks like he's gonna be doing it next week when Cash returns from vacation. I've been working with USDA, finally get the word that I should use USDA contracts for the architect and the engineer for the pedestrian bridge.
really?
And since this is preliminary engineering, I'm gonna have to do subsequent contracts as we move forward, because we don't know what the total cost of the project will be. So I'm working with them on that. Told them that we would probably have a contract to them on Tuesday for preliminary engineering work, so they can get started putting that together.
I thought at first, your first contact with USDA said that you didn't need to use that contract, but you do, okay, never mind. It's-
No, I just say, that's what's happened at USDA. They have various offices in the state. They've had new office managers, a lot of people transitioned during COVID, and not everyone is connected with what USDA requires. So it makes it kind of nebulous out there, because I did contact one office and they go, we don't care what you use for a contract. And then another person said, well, you know, you don't have to use our contract, but you need to make sure everything we have in our contract's in your contract. So I said, well, why don't I just use your contract? and so then they recommended that I go to some website and purchase AIA contracts, which are special contracts for architectural folks and engineering. And I just went on their, finally I just went on their website and found theirs. And it was in a fillable form, so
Oh.
I've been trying to fill it out.
Okay,
Completed a narrative for USDA Community Facilities Grant.
oh, thank
Where we're
you.
changing it from working on the Lvrt
Yeah.
to working on the pedestrian bridge.
Yeah,
I sent that to USDA Representative Rebecca Schrader last week. I haven't heard anything back yet, but hopefully she's reading it. And will get back to us on any changes we need to make. I had to respond, actually, Aaron responded, and I got involved in a complaint about a blocked trail on Prospect Street, which is over in what they call the West End, Hardwick. And Prospect Street comes down the hill from up on hillside from the West End, cuts through what looks like someone's driveway, but that driveway actually is like a road, right, like a Class 3 road. And it comes through there, and at some portion, it's not a complete road anymore because they turned a portion of it into a legal trail. So an ATV user was saying, I can't get through here because somebody blocked it off. So Aaron went up there and talked to the property owner, and he said, well, we blocked it off because, you know, people don't drive down the driveway, which is our trail. They drive across my lawn to another driveway and back up the road. So I checked on the trail ordinances for ATVs, and Prospect Street, Union Street, Hillside Street are not listed trails, so they can't be on those trails anyway. The only portion of the Prospect Street they could be on would be like from here to that house on that trail, and that doesn't get them anywhere. So really, they shouldn't be using it. So next time they call me to complain, I'm just going to tell them, sorry, but you can't use it anyway. So talk to your VASA representative. And if Danny, if you're watching, they're going to call you. Oh, and then this is more kind of a little long note here. I provided Aldrich and Elliott, those are the engineers that are handling the wastewater facility upgrade, with cost for removal and disposal of sewage sludge. It's a pretty interesting topic. At the wastewater treatment facility. The cost of total disposal of the sludge is $2,119 per ton. The bid allocation was $271,200 for removal of 120 dry tons. So the markup was, I don't know if I got this right, but was $141 per ton, which we thought there might be a big markup on this, and there wasn't. $141 is not that much. That would work out to be about less than $17,000 markup. So why we're concerned about the markup would be if we took over that project and they were charging us, say, another $500 a ton or whatever, we could have saved a bunch of money, but they really weren't. So the price that I got quoted is essentially the price they got quoted for removing the sludge. So we're not getting much of a savings from taking over that project. The bid price for the entire project was $2,390,000 or so. The total expected bid price was $211,000. That was, excuse me, the bid price for, cross out that 2,390. The actual bid price, the total bid price for the project plus add-on alternates was $2,861,536. The expected bid price was $2,111,825. So the difference in bid price over expected bid price was like almost $750,000. I have contacted Aldrich and Elliott too to find out if there are any discrepancies in these numbers and if the numbers have changed at all, but those are the numbers that I was able to nail down. So it looks like if we have $800,000 in Arpa money, we're probably going to utilize that on this project if we are to do the work on the wastewater plant. There's just $200,000 allocated in for wastewater treatment, for sludge removal. So actually the sludge removal is already in there, but we may end up having to remove, instead of 120 tons, we may have to remove 520 tons. I don't know. That's why Paul Senesac is doing the sampling down there.
Is this the same thing that the library ran into, the, COVID?
Well, I don't know.
Probably not.
Not quite, because I think it's probably a little bit up because of the COVID repercussions, but most of what they're doing is not building with lumber or anything like that. It's pretty much doing repairs on equipment and materials that really haven't changed that much in price. What has changed is that there's no place for municipal wastewater sludge to go anymore. And it either has to go to Quebec or the next best option is Buffalo, New York. And that's what, 9-10 hour drive? And they have sent a truckload over there every day, for a long time to get that out of there. So the guy I was talking to, Paul Senesac, said there could be 800 tons of sludge in there, which would mean that we probably won't have the money to remove it all. The reason we're removing the sludge is so that we can clean out the lagoons, put new liners in, replace the old liners, and then put water back in there. So we might end up having to put some of the sludge back in those lagoons. But there's a process in which we would do it. I would probably clean out the second lagoon last and leave that the cleanest, because that's the one that has sludge problems. The first lagoon isn't anywhere near as bad. Just move some of the sludge into the first lagoon. But anyway, we're trying to make process changes at the wastewater plant to reduce the production of sludge. And I have some ideas that I've suggested to people, and hopefully they move forward with them. So that's it. That's my report.
John, is there a sense from Paul as to when we might have an idea of how much sludge we're looking at?
Yeah, that's what he's looking for. He's going to do sludge measurements.
He's asking for timeline.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
When he will know?
Roughly?
I would hope in a couple weeks. Because we have to get back to Negley and Chase, the people that bid on this project, pretty soon. Because they're not going to hold the price. And secondly, we'll have to go out and rebid the project. And if we rebid the project, we probably would have to do it by December. That's not going to change prices any. The only thing that's going to change is these people know how much everybody else bids, so their prices probably won't go down unless a new bidder comes in.
Do we know, was the bid price good for 30 days or 60 days, or do we know?
I don't know what it is, but I know we're supposed to get back with this like 60 days with these folks. So it's going to be, we're getting pretty close to that.
Yeah, I would think. And somebody at Aldrich and Elliott is...
I've notified them, and we yanked their chain today a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
We'll let you know.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So, can I just add something to that quickly?
You may.
So theoretically, we might have that information for our next select board meeting, maybe, which would be great. It sounds like if we were to go with that bid, we would have to make a decision to go forward we've already approved it, we already have the bond for it, but if we have to allocate more money for that bid, it would be great to be prepared to do that at our next meeting if there's, whether it's the Arpa funding, which we're gonna talk about tonight too, what the process for that is, that way we can just make a quick decision about it, if the Arpa funding won't cover all of it, or just being able to say this is where the puzzle pieces are gonna fit in for whatever funding we don't have, so that we can just be quick to turn around on that.
Yeah, I'll just let Paul know that he needs to get this done as soon as possible.
Okay.
Sooner than possible.
So on the one hand, we don't wanna let the project drop, but on the other hand, they're not actually gonna start on it until the spring.
They're not gonna start on the project till spring.
So,
I mean, you could rebid the project, but then then you have to go into another bond period too.
yeah,
And we're getting a 40% grant on that bond. So that was amounting to about, I think around $400,000. And so this is like it's an opportunity a town will never have, and the people are impacted most by the water and wastewater plant and the costs associated with operating a water and wastewater plant are the people in the village who have low incomes. And I think that they're the people that are least likely to have the ability to pay for something like this full boat. So we're gonna end up with, maybe like $1.2 million worth of grant money and ARPA money. This is a one-time benefit for these people to have this system and not have these huge payments. We're gonna already have it like I don't know, what, 80 some odd $1,000 a year payment on this bond for 20 years? And that's added to the budget, so I don't want to see people, I think this is a great opportunity, I just don't want to see their rates go out of sight, it's not fair.
it's also important for general, development of the business community in the town,
Yep.
which benefits not just those in the village, but everyone in the town.
And what that wastewater plant does, it improves the river quality and the environmental quality for everybody who lives here in the surrounding area. So,
Or at least downstream.
right.
All right, thank you. Next up, Tom Fadden with a road report.
Don't have it.
You don't?
Taking the night off.
All right, but you're here.
Yeah, I'm here.
I saw trucks going with gravel somewhere.
Oh, we've been all over the place with gravel, stay mat, you name it.
Oh, maybe it was Stay Mat. I don't know. I said maybe it was Stay Mat. I don't know. I saw a full dump truck roll by somewhere.
Well, we've been pretty much busy getting caught back up again. The guys have been out grading, of course, hauling gravel too. We stay matted the areas back over towards Montgomery and over by Hardwick Farms today, just to recoat the surfaces and stuff and add just a hair more.
Okay.
Just kind of extending it a little bit more over there.
Places where you'd been before was Stay
Yes,
Mat? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
just to keep the stay mat there, just add a little bit more.
Yep.
Because we all know with the weather and stuff, it washes away a little bit. We did a water line last week down on Elm Street that a resident was having no pressure with. Come find out, the line is either crushed underneath the blacktop or whatever. We ended up running a new line down there. We've been hauling the last couple weeks of winter sand, so
Oh, yeah.
that's all done. That's all stocked up and ready to go. Hopefully we won't use it, but besides that, trucks have been going out, getting maintenance done to them and inspections to them. New truck that should be going in, getting whatever it can get done to it. I think either next week or the week after. Same thing as usual. They're having problems with bodies getting here. So basically the truck will probably be all done within a couple weeks, but no body. So we don't know whether that'd be a month and a half, but same story with everything else. We finally got our load of copper that we were waiting for with some fittings and stuff the other day, finally after 6 weeks or so. So we got that. Paint cherry, that's not coming. So we'll forget about that this year. I called Kevin on Monday. They won't give them any answers where they're getting paint from. Basically, they're just saying, we don't know. So instead of having $1,000 sitting around the shop, I canceled the order. Because next year, of course, everybody knows the state's coming through and paving everything and grinding and putting down new markings. So if we do anything, it'd be a year after that, after they get done
Well,
doing
they're
that.
coming through in the fall.
Who's up? The state? state.
The state, yeah.
Yeah, we ain't seen timeline on it. I know they're coming through next year, but,
This fall.
I don't know.
We'll see.
so.
That was fall.
But anyway, so that's about it. People in East Hardwick, call us when there's potholes over there. We don't get over there every day or once a week, or it could even be 2 weeks. Just let everybody know over there, that road is getting paved this year. Some people call it Creamery, but it is Brick House Road.
Yeah.
So that's getting paved, Cedar Street's getting paved, and also Belfry's getting a coat over the top of it. So that area's getting paved, so be patient with it. It's just hard for us to go over there and, I know there were some potholes and stuff, and I really don't like using cold patch because it just don't hold, but it doesn't justify us going and getting hot mix for those few areas, because by the time we get back, that hot mix will be cold. It'd be different if we had a 2-ton box that actually have heaters in it, and then it would keep it hot. But for us to go down with a big dump truck and get 2 or 3 tons, by the time we get here, it'd be gone. So, but it is in the loop, so we did put some coal patch in it. The boys are gonna be heading out probably next week if the weather holds to go get 12 tons, because we've got a bunch of stuff around the village that we gotta do with the water line that we just tore up and stuff, and a couple places for sidewalks. So they'll hit that area again, just to put a coat over what we did do. That's about it, I guess.
All right.
So when-
Maybe that'll stop them from spray painting the road for you, Tom.
It'd be nice if they called, instead of doing something like that, and all of a sudden, guys are over that way hauling material, then they're going down through, of course. It gives us a good chuckle, but
So when's the paving, when does it start?
don't know, we haven't heard from,
Graves.
Graves yet, so.
It's September.
Usually like to have paving done before it gets cold, so it bonds better
Right.
for the road.
I don't know, one of our best years was when we went and, I think it was West End. We plowed that off that morning, they came and paved it there that afternoon.
I had a really quick question about Brickhouse Road, Tom.
Yeah.
There's, which you've probably noticed, it seems like it's probably really hard to ditch in there because it's really tight against the bank. But it seems like there's a decent amount, there's water that just comes right down that hill. And it seems like that just keeps like eroding the asphalt underneath. I don't know if there's anything else we can.
The only thing we do is up by the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
We put a runoff right there, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because it just ain't,
And that's pretty much all.
we'd have to cut that bank way back.
Yeah.
So we'd have to do a little bit of tree cutting and everything else there in order to put a ditch in.
Yeah. Okay. Is that gonna get even messier with Lvrt putting, because that runoff's probably gonna go away once they put the trail in.
No, we'll manage.
It will just be a wet spot for them.
Maybe.
Great, thank you.
Is it something that does need to be ditched eventually?
It'd be impossible.
It really?
Yeah, because the road here, the bank is right here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's up as tight as it can get.
Is there ledge in there probably?
I don't know if there's ledge or not, John, but I mean, the bank right there is probably, 15 feet at the height? Of course, then there's big pines, probably 3 feet in diameter on top, so,
Holding the bank together.
yeah, that too.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next up is Hardwick Police Department report given by Aaron Cochran.
Okay, incidents, you should have the incident report there, there's the Casey sent out to you.
Yeah.
We had 134 incidents for the month of August that we responded to. Couple things to note out of that. One of the things we're dealing with on an increasing amount recently is, and I think a lot of towns are, as you know, the transient population in Vermont that was housed in motels, hotels around the state were kicked out of those places and issued some money and tent and so on to move along, basically. And so what that's done with a lot of towns in Vermont is police departments are dealing with transient population moving through their towns, et cetera, different people. So we've seen some of that activity over the last month. Different calls we've had to go to, which did include some mental health calls, and so we have done our best to try and get them necessary services, in dealing with them. So nobody that is generally, what we've dealt with is generally moving through town, but, we've gotten calls on some disturbances, et cetera, that we've had to deal with.
So which are the agencies that you partner with on those?
Some of the stuff, well, a lot of the ones that we've dealt with recently have included mental health, so we've had to, deal with the mental health
Is
system.
that Lamoille or is that?
Generally, it's Northeast Kingdom Human Services for
Northeast Kingdom.
adults in Hardwick, and then Lamoille is for children in Hardwick. But what
Okay.
we're dealing with generally is adults. One in particular that I dealt with last week, probably the first time I've dealt with that in my career. But was a very interesting call, and that actually that individual went by ambulance and was dealt with by Lamoille County Mental Health because they went to Copley. So, yeah, that was an interesting call, I'll leave it at that, but. So we are, we have some of that, the mental health component mixed in, the homeless component mixed in, and so, well, everybody around the state, as far as law enforcement is dealing with this and talking about, there needs to be a better way than just, here's some money, get out. And that's literally how it was done. So, I think they received $2,500 to get them started. And it's a sleeping bag and I think a tent, and that's, yeah. So, go ahead.
So is the way are you basically getting calls from other people saying there's somebody, like how are you finding these people and then providing them those services?
Yeah, generally you're getting a complaint come in for something. It may be somebody who's disorderly, different types of complaints in those manners. So.
There was a couple of instances this week, right?
Yeah. This last week, I think it was, yeah.
Two,
Yeah.
Does there seem to be like a theme, or like an area or a theme where that's happening? It's just kind
I
of
think it's
random?
everywhere. We're just starting to see it in the last month. We don't have really anything other than a village motel, and that wasn't part of the program, to my knowledge. So we didn't see an immediate effect. I think it's kind of a trickle down effect as people are moving around and shuffling around. I think there's a little bit of a trickle down effect there. So other than that on there, citizen disputes, we've dealt with a fair amount of those this month. I mentioned some mental health incidents, motor vehicle crashes. Those seem to be the theme for the month of August. Let's see, Zach Willie, who I had suspected was probably interested in the full-time position, is interested in transitioning into the full-time position. So he's put in for that, and we're good with moving him to full-time there. So he'll be filling one of those positions. As I said, as I had said before, with COVID, that messed with the academy and everything else, there wouldn't be an opportunity for a full-time academy for us until probably the fall of '22, prior to going in. The January class coming up is the next class coming up, and that one's already full with the other half of this year's cadets, candidates.
So can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So that would be for Zach to take that course?
Full-time school, yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then, so it's full in January?
Yes,
So then he wouldn't be able to do that until when?
the fall of '22, I think it's August. I think
And
is when
with that, if he can't take it to the fall, does that limit him in what he can do for the PD?
Some, yes. Part-time officers are limited to a level 2 officer. Let me rephrase that, because not everybody's part-time is not, level 2, some are level 3. So, level 2 officer is limited in their scope of authority, only to the extent that they can't write a charging affidavit for some charges in particular. That has to be written by a level 3 or a level 2E officer. Yeah.
Okay. So he would have to be with somebody who can do that.
He would, right, well, yes and no, yes, he has to, the full-time officer or the level 3 officer would be, the one writing a charging affidavit for a certain amount of, some specific calls. Yeah.
Does that, oh, sorry to go down the rabbit hole here, but does the officer writing the affidavit have to actually be on the call? Or go out, like?
Well, yeah, generally they would, because as we're working back towards, trying to get back up to staff and working with our part-time staff, which is really, help bail us out there. So generally, 2 officers are responding to most calls. So if you get a call, so they're working together, so there's generally 2 officers anyways, responding to whatever calls, unless they're, doesn't warrant it, or we're really spread, going different directions. So most calls, especially any call that would say involve domestics, any type of fights, anything like that, always 2 officers are going to those calls anyways, yeah.
And where do we stand right now for level 2 and level 3 staffing?
Level 2 and level 3, so we have, for level 3, we have, 1, 2, myself, Sergeant Barber, are both level 3. Officer Caldwell and Gagnon are both level 2Es, which gives them very close to the full-time certification to the level 3. They can't investigate a homicide. There's a few things like that that can't be investigated by a level 2E, which is an enhanced level 2.
Okay.
The state has also talked about, during this whole crisis, about moving some of those to a level 3. So that's...
With additional training, or just
Well,
administrative?
a lot of probably a lot of administrative, but they don't know how they're gonna do it yet.
Okay.
They're just, it's very preliminary. They're looking at a lot of different things, as to how they can move, and make sure people. Level 2Es generally have been working for a long period of time, as in years, and they have been investigating. So we went to, prior to about 5 years ago, a level 2 certification, or we knew it as it was a part-time certification at that point in time. There was no restriction on what they could investigate. So part-time officers, prior to about 5 years ago, were investigating everything that a full-time officer would investigate. And then the state changed, and they categorized level 1s, 2s, and 3s. 3 being someone who has attended the full-time academy and gone through, 2s being somebody, who has been through the part-time school. And so that's where that change happened. So the ones that were already level 2s and had investigated all of these calls were grandfathered in, to be able to continue doing the same as what level 3 was and what they had been doing up to that point, rather than restricting, really for no reason, what they were doing. So, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And level 1, Aaron, is basically a detective role? Is that-
No, level 1 level 1 was done specifically for sheriff's departments to do transport. So a transport deputy would not, would be transporting a prisoner possibly from the courthouse back to jail, and they're not going to be investigating criminal offenses, etc. So that's where they really brought in the level 1s, was to fill that niche for that particular person. So yeah, so that's what level 1s are. We don't see, most of your municipal agencies don't see level 1s because it really doesn't fit what we need to be able to do. So we're seeing level 2Es, 3s obviously, and level 2s, and working to get to level 2s qualified. So currently we would have Zach and Katie that need to go to the full-time academy. Katie would be upon her return, from the military.
So they're both level 2?
They're both level 2s, yep. Yep. Any more on that? Did I create more questions, or did I?
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, yeah.
The two E's.
Two
you said
E's, yeah.
Officer Gagnon, and who's the other one?
Caldwell.
Okay.
Move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, ultimately, our goal is to move back to the 24 hours, and get that. We're currently, we had tried, one that John talked about at the last meeting, ending at midnight. That didn't work because we were getting call outs from midnight to 2. So we moved to the, same schedule as what state police, and modeled the state police schedule. And then we want to work back with getting different ones in, to work back towards the 24 hours.
How many do we need?
I think we can do it within the next few weeks at this point. The part-time staff that we have, with Rossi, that we just hired, the other part-time officer that we have, they've been doing it for years, very seasoned officers as well. So we have enough to cover both nighttime, daytime shifts, and then we can utilize the part-time staff in between, like swing shifts, in between shifts, so that we can continue the double officer, for safety through that. We're actually, it seems like a lot, but we're actually in better shape than some agencies around us, and I won't get into, the other agencies because it's not fair to them, but our officers were actually in pretty good shape, comparable, if not better, with the amount of officers that we have right now, compared to some of the area agencies. So even state police right now is in bad shape. When I was talking to the state's attorney last week, I think it was, so yeah, I didn't realize they were in as tough a shape. More locally, but yeah, even them as well.
So when we get to 5 full-time officers, is that what you're kind of aiming at?
Well, we'll be at 4, plus myself makes 5.
Right.
And then we have by bringing Zach off from our part-time contingency and putting him in, that, leaves us one down on the part-time, but we have some things in the water, working towards, some other part-time that are seasoned that would help us with that as well. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
And what happens when the 2 who are on military duty return?
So that brings them back to, so we have Lucas and Katie. So currently we have Officer Caldwell, Sergeant Barber, and we would have Zach. And then that would bring back Katie and Lucas, which would give us the 5. Right now, Officer Gagnon, who is our dispatcher, has been filling in, an officer slot, because that's where we need him more than what we have needed him in the dispatching role. So he's been filling the role. He's certified, and we knew that when we hired him, which was a unique position for us to have a dispatcher that was also certified. But Morrisville has that same opportunity. They call them a desk officer. He's actually working the road now as well, because in a similar situation. So Scott would go back to, the dispatching role, and we'd have the 5 officers.
So right now dispatch is handled out of the Lamoille?
Yes, yeah. Which we're currently paying for anyway, so.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. But you'd rather have dispatch happen out of Hardwick?
It is more convenient. We have better radio coverage, as well as, Scott fills a role of more than just dispatch and deals with different audits that the FBI does on our, say missing person, stolen property, deals with all of that. So it is beneficial to have somebody there. But yeah, we're certainly, with COVID, we found out that some stuff can be done longer distance over internet and so on, but yeah. Let's see, another thing that we've seen, and I want to make people aware, I actually spoke with the seniors today when they met for lunch. We are seeing a fraud scam that's particularly hitting this area, probably hitting a lot of areas through Facebook. They're coming through Facebook, stealing profiles, and asking people to buy gift cards. And it's kind of like a Ponzi scheme where they're shipping gift cards around to different people so that they can't be tracked. And a lot of these scams are coming out of, Nigeria, different places. That's where they're always seem to originate from, is foreign countries, can't be tracked down. Obviously, once a person buys a gift card and sends it to the next person, who's then going to turn around and send it to the next person, the money's gone. And so, but that scheme is around. It is happening. Like I said, I talked with the seniors today to make them aware.
And it's largely through Facebook that's being propagated?
Yeah, yep. And so, so that's a problem. I say if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And if anybody has any question at all, I would ask that they call us, and we can definitely, generally we know about the scams, or we can look into them a little bit as well. By talking to the Attorney General's office, who keeps a running list of what's going on with fraudulent scams out there too. So please call us if there is anything that doesn't look right. Our experience is it usually isn't right. And it's large amounts of money that they're trying to get people to buy gift cards and et cetera. So let's see, talked about Narcan shortage, I think at one of the other meetings. We were able to get our supply, so we were able to get resupplied for that, but there is a Narcan shortage out there. But
You get that from the Department of Health typically?
Yes, yep. So we get that, and the last thing that I have is Act 37 was enacted in the last legislative session. I think it's 37. What that was, it was requiring the Commissioner of Health to form a state commission on first responder wellness, dealing with mental and physical health of first responders, law enforcement, EMS, and fire. So that required the representation from people from each different level, fire, EMS, police. What police included state police, the chiefs of police, and the sheriffs. I think fire was volunteer and paid fire service organization. So anyways, to get to the point, I was appointed to represent the chiefs of police on this commission. So I can't report as to what we've done because we haven't done anything yet, but the first meeting is mid-September. So I think the legislature recognized first responders and some of the challenges, mental health challenges as well as physical challenges. And so the focus of this group or this commission is to seek out ways to better their lives, both mentally and physically. So that's my understanding at this point as to what we're tasked with to look for those opportunities. So
Sounds worthwhile.
when I find out more, I'll tell you.
When's the report due?
What's that?
When's the report due?
They report at a minimum once a year to the governor. into legislature. So our first
So
meeting.
this is an ongoing?
This is an ongoing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is an ongoing. I think our first term is a year, I think, and then 3 years after that. And I was trying to read through everything, but yeah. So it's an ongoing commission. It's a permanent, I say permanent commission, but, yeah, yeah. So.
Congratulations.
Our first report, hopefully, I'm assuming will be, this year to legislature, but it's probably gonna be minimal as to the formation of it, et cetera, so yeah. So, yeah, that's what I got.
All right, thank you.
John beat me on time, but
No, we
That
dragged
was
you,
our fault.
yeah, we dragged you out of it. Questions, other questions? We peppered him with questions. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Next is item number 1, which is select board to discuss maintaining critical emergency services department and staffing levels which can accommodate the potential needs of the community. And this was requested to be on our agenda tonight by Michael, who's not here, so, and I'm not entirely sure what he was getting at. I mean, I know as far as police staffing, I feel like we just went through it in some detail as part of the police report. As far as emergency services or fire or EMS, I don't really know, so.
Is anybody here that wants to talk about it?
Did anybody come here to talk about this in particular and wants to voice an opinion of some sort to the board? Or information? Larry, could you state your name, please?
My name's Larry Hamill. I live in East Hardwick, and Michael Deering did put out a notice on Front Porch Forum to talk about specifically police staffing levels. And as somebody who lives out in East Hardwick, I've got family out there, I've got business in town here. I'm very interested in having police coverage because things do happen. I get calls from my tenants all the time, and I have to field out what's important enough to call the police, what I have to deal with myself. And I'd like to be able to have 24-hour police coverage to cover what I have in town and for the safety of my tenants and my property. And also going back, while I have the floor, the other thing that I wanted to talk about goes back into what Aaron was saying about transient people. I've been the town service officer here for a long time, 7, 8, 9 years. I've had 27 clients. I've helped most of them without any cost to the town, but I did notice in the town budget, I had at one time a budget of $500.
Yeah.
That's been reduced to $250. Look it up.
Okay.
And also, I got a grand sum of $50 a month, or $50 a year for performing this job. And I noticed also in the town budget, and I get the corresponding checks for $150 a year, which I've never asked for. Nobody does this job for the money. I do this job and I take it seriously. I'd much rather have that extra $100. I wouldn't want to have the town service officer reduced to zero, because if I sell my other building, I will no longer be the most available person to conduct this job, but I do take it seriously. And $50 a year is a stipend for, anybody else that wanted to do the job, but I'd like to have that $100 put back into my budget and have my budget raised back up to $500, because it is a very important service.
Yeah. Duly noted. We need to, so.
It's good timing, Larry, because as you know, we're going to be heading into budget season.
Right.
So-
Well, I've talked to, there were 3 things on my list to talk about tonight, and I've covered 2, the police department.
Yeah.
And the town service officer.
Yeah.
And Tommy just informed me that but the Bailey Hazen Road project is progressing.
It's progressing, yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't expect it to happen overnight.
Surveyors are coming.
We have to follow state statute in laying out a road, just like you were laying out a brand new road, because it requires, the discontinued road right away has to be turned back to the original property owner, so that requires some deed changes, so we have to have an official survey of the road. Selectboard has to go out there and convene a hearing or a meeting out there to look at the road, and then they have to come back, and then we have to make a statement that due to the public good and so on and so forth. We were hereby laying out this road, and so it follows statute, it's probably like 200 years old.
I understand that. When I started on this project, it was with our previous town manager, and I cut the trees to make a way for this, so the town got, a lot of the work done ahead of time, but it's a safety issue. It's not my pet project for my own, but I've lived up there long enough to know that that's a very, very dangerous intersection, and I'm glad to see it's progressing.
John, 250-year-old statute.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah.
Is anybody else here to weigh in on the maintaining critical emergency services? Could you state your name, please?
Aya Kaufman is my last name. My first name's Aya. Yeah, I was here because Michael put out a call, but what he said made it sound like people could have an impact on what the budget was, but it sounds like, from what you said from your report, that 24-hour coverage is happening anyway, correct?
Aaron has just said it's the goal to get back to it.
They have on call, right, between the hours of, we don't really specify the hours, but.
Sure, yes.
But their officers are on call, and Aaron lives in town, and we have other officers, like
Right.
Aaron Barber lives nearby, so
People are still responding.
still responding, they're here.
They're not necessarily in the office up there, but they're still responding.
Sure, I was just, I was wondering what he was referring to when he implied that people had an ability to impact how the budget was allocated. That was what he made it sound like when he posted, but obviously he's not here. So maybe I had better contact him directly.
So just for a general education is that the town fiscal year runs July 1st through June 30th. So we're only like quarter way into our fiscal year right now. And that fiscal year that we're in right now is the budget we voted on in town meeting in March of this year. So the select board will be starting work on crafting a budget for next year's town meeting, and we'll start that probably in earnest in November. To get it ready for January, to get it put out to people before town meeting so that people know what they're voting on. And then, that budget that we vote on next year again starts the following July 1. So it's kind of a lengthy process, but the budget year we're in right now is fixed by our previous town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
One of the problems that we ran into is we were contracting with another town, which allowed both towns to have the advantage of 24-hour service at a reduced cost to both towns. And that town chose to go a different direction, which left us with an unexpected deficit that we're also trying to navigate through that deficit as well. It was unexpected to all of us, so those are some of the struggles also that we're trying to work through. As of right now, I check the budget very regularly, or the police department budget, and obviously, right now, we look good as of the first quarter, so we should be doing well. Obviously, we've had reduced force, which obviously benefits the budget, doesn't necessarily benefit our coverage, but benefits the budget, et cetera. So trying to navigate through all of that but right now, we're looking good as of the first quarter of that budget.
So also just to add to other previous select board meetings, we talked about having a community forum to talk about, does the town decide to just have 24/7 coverage for Hardwick? Do we look to other towns to have contracted services? We're also in the process of hiring a new town manager, so the select board we've had a lot of those discussions here with Aaron and other people who've come to the meetings, but we've decided to wait to figure out when to have that public forum until we hire a new town manager who can help us through that process. So So to your point, like, yes, I think that there is going to be an opportunity for the public to weigh in and to say, this is what I need to be safe in our town. But we want to have that be a part of the new town manager's role in bringing people together. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Thanks so much.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Judith Levine. I just had two questions. Aaron, can you say why Greensboro ceased its contract with the Hardwick Police Department?
Not really, I'm not part of
You don't know?
the final decisions there, so when it comes.
Does anybody know? I mean, is it public information why that happened?
They made a statement also on Front Porch Forum. Well, somebody made a statement on Front Porch Forum on the Greensboro one. As to I think that they found a different contract.
Oh, I see. With another town, I mean.
They contracted with the Orleans County Sheriff.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's just public everywhere.
And that's to the inner workings of the Greensboro Selectboard. It probably, you'd have to ask them.
And then the other question was about this committee that you just mentioned, Kaylee. Is the purview of that going to be beyond just police in terms of talking about community safety?
Yeah, so we're really, I think, waiting to bring in our new town manager to talk about, Aaron, years ago, or the first year I was on the board, had a forum with Greensboro talking about policing and safety in general. So we were talking about having there be an opportunity to have the public weigh in on various things. So I imagine we haven't done beyond saying we want to do that. We haven't figured out what exactly that looks like.
But one way people can weigh in is exactly what you're doing tonight, which is great, actually, to hear from people, because we don't have people come in often enough to express their views to the select board.
Yeah, I'll just go in. Steve Fortman, Hardwick resident, and I'm a member of Hardwick Rescue Squad. I would just mention that the staffing of Hardwick Rescue is under stress at this time. It's not really an issue to discuss, I just point that out. And wanted to, same as Larry be here, show support for full staffing of our police department. It's really important to us, and show our support for the police department in general. And as a EMS member, a lot of times we go to a call with the Hardwick Police. Just want to say that it's always been professional and is here to show my support, that's all.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Judith, one of the things that, just quickly, when we did the forum with Greensboro, honestly, I am not that great of a computer person, so I was a little skeptical as to whether everything would go well, but it did go very well and was well received, and to anybody that that came on to the forum, they learned. I get different feedback from different ones, and they certainly learned about policing, and some said they had a better understanding of policing and so on. So it would probably be beneficial.
And my question was whether we could talk about community safety beyond policing, that's all.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting, and I would like us to do that.
Thank you. Kaylee's taking a note. All right, I'm gonna move us on to item 2, which is select board to discuss the proposed charter changes. And I'm gonna turn and pivot to John Jewett to summarize those changes. I will just give a short intro that the thing that instigated us to look into doing some charter changes is two of our listers who've been listers for a long time have been threatening to retire for years, but then they're actually gonna retire this December. We have an assessor who we hired to do a lot of their work starting 2 years ago, maybe, I can't remember exactly. That's been going really well, but we wanted to, essentially when we want to remove the listers from the chart, from the list of folks that are elected, because we want to just have a hired assessor do that. But then while there's a big process to change the charter, we have to do a couple public hearings and have there's a whole schedule, and then it has to go to the legislature, so, anyway, we figured if we're looking at it, we're gonna look at the whole charter, so. I know that the other big change is changing selectmen to select board. In about 100 different locations.
Right. There's quite a few things, there's these basic offices that we elect every year at town meeting that really don't do anything. And the trustees of public funds, essentially, you want to just say what they do, or did?
Yeah, when the town was first chartered, 1781 it was chartered, when it was first organized in 1795, there were about 10 more lots than there were proprietors. The proprietors, 67 of them, each got 3 lots, and there were these other lots left over which were held in perpetual lease by the town. The town leased that land out to people who couldn't afford to buy land, and took the lease money and gave it to school districts and to support the clergy. And they were known as perpetual lease lands. Well, they needed a small group of people to oversee those funds, and that's what the trustees of public funds were. Those were the public funds, and there were 3 trustees to oversee those funds. Fast forward, the lease lands ceased to have any real function by the early 20th century. By the late 20th century, the legislature had done away with that structure, and about 4 years ago, this select board quit-claimed ownership. I mean, they never did away with the ownership piece. The town owned that, but it showed up. It was really confusing if you're a real estate broker. We finally quit-claimed any claim to any of that land. So no longer, there haven't been public funds, as the phrase was used, for probably, I don't know, 100 years or so. That goes back to 1921, and that may not be far enough. And if you don't have public funds, you sure don't need 3 people to oversee them. And so we're getting rid of that.
And it's about time.
It's about time.
We're going to remove the auditors. Every year, we vote in auditors, and what the town does now, what many towns do, which is the appropriate way, is they hire external auditors to come in and actually audit the books who are professionals. The problem when you elect people, you never know what you're electing. People if they can even balance their own checkbooks. And so the problem with that is that, so we're going to eliminate that. Don't want to drag this out. We're going to eliminate the listers. We just mentioned that because we have people on staff that we've hired that actually are going to do the lister's job. There's a couple things here that is a fairly major change. Is we'd like to take the town clerk and town treasurer's officers and appoint those. And the reason being is that we're in a transition period now where we may have a turnover of the town clerk, and we would like, there is a town clerk and assistant town clerk, and we would like to keep that town clerk in that position, and then in the future, the assistant town clerk would be, if this works out, would be appointed by the select board. And the reason being is that you can do a hiring process, you can look at people's resumes, and you can see, do they have accounting background? Do they, what is their background? I said, instead of having somebody just picked out of the crowd at town meeting and put into that position, because it's too complicated now. There's a specific software they have to use that not a lot of people use for accounting. It's used by the town manager's office, it's used by the town clerk's office, and it's used across many of the towns. So we'd like to have that position, those 2 positions appointed rather than elected. And that may be controversial, so stay tuned. And what else? A very important office here, fence viewers. We're thinking about getting rid of them.
Can you tell us, Wiz, what they do?
The fence viewers, they view fences.
She asked Wiz, not you, John.
Oh,
Sounds like a job for a pro.
They were, good fencers make good neighbors. And they were, if there were neighbors having a fight over where the fence was or where it used to be, and I want to put it up again, these were the people that arbitrated that dispute.
But does the zoning board, who does, property line disputes now?
Zoning board?
I have to say that
Surveyors.
I had felt that the zoning officer, zoning administrator would probably be the closest thing we have to a fence viewer.
Yeah.
She gets called for everything.
Sure, Kristen would like that.
So anyway, that's, and then we have a couple other ones that we appoint too that aren't in the charter, like the agent to convey real estate and another agent to do something, but that's really what either the town manager or the town attorney would do. And back in the day, they just tried to find somebody who had some educational background and, hey, you want to be a town agent, you want to convey real estate. So going forward, we're making those changes. Then there's a bunch of other changes that we're looking at making here that kind of just brings us up to current standards a little bit. And instead of writing the same thing that's in state statute now, we kind of refer back to the statute in some instances. So it doesn't make much sense to rewrite it a couple times. So this charter with the changes is going to be posted on the town website if anybody wants to see it. And the things we're Xing out have a line through them, and the things we're adding are underlined. So feel free to read that over. If comments, provide comments. There's a time period that we have to follow. We would kind of like to do a townwide vote on the charter changes, maybe in November, so that we can have this ready for legislature in January. Because if we wait until town meeting to do the vote, then we'd have to wait till next year to make the changes. So we'd like to do it now. It just seems to work out well now. So the process will be underway. We'll have more discussions. We have to have 2 public hearings similar to this. This would have been a great public hearing too, by the way, because
we actually have people here, yes.
Just come back. So we're going to move forward with it. So this is just kind of broach the whole thing, and you know, there's going to be a lot of discussion about this before we're done. Okay.
Thank you. Question?
Good.
Everybody's good? All right. We crossed out item 3, so next is select board to discuss ARPA funds. And Casey sent us that short email, and the take-home point, last page. Take-home point is that there are really only 4 categories of expenses. So the U.S. Department of Treasury is providing guidance on how you can spend. The ARPA is, somebody's gonna have to help me, American Relief?
Recovery Act, right?
Recovery? Starts with an R.
Rescue plan.
Rescue Plan Act. Thank you. U.S. Department of Treasury is providing guidance on how it can be spent. We've only recently learned how much the town is getting, because originally they had Larry.
I'm reading over this woman's shoulder here, and we seem to have skipped over an item there.
Yeah, what happened to number 3?
Oh, sorry, before you came, there was an adjustment to the agenda.
That's it.
We're not talking about that item.
If we talk about it in the future, we will warn it appropriately.
Can we go now? Oh, I was gonna stay for it.
Glad you
Larry,
asked,
we're in
Larry.
the middle of the ARPA funds, so you
I'm
can sit
sorry.
back down. Jeez, it's good discussion. We're talking about $800,000.
Does that have anything to do with me?
Well, it might help with your poop, because we're talking about spending it on the sewer plant.
Okay.
All right.
Not in East Hardwick, though.
Well, he has a building down here with a bathroom. So,
Yeah, often.
Multiple bathrooms.
so,
With homelessness too, that's covered under the.
oh,
No. it's
No?
not.
Didn't I read that?
oh.
I don't know, I read it.
So anyway, What I was just gonna say is that we had known that the allocation to the town was just under $300,000. And it's spread out over two, equally divided between getting it this year and next year. And the disbursement date was really recent was it?
Or the county funds.
Yeah, okay, and then the county portion, so the federal government had also allocated a lot of money to counties because in other states, there are county governments that are active and do a lot of things, and we don't really have that in Vermont. So we just learned that the state was able to allocate the county portion to the town, so our county portion is $555,000, so for a grand total of $855,227, which will be divided into two equal payments, one this year and one next. So, in Casey's summary, there are four things that these funds can be used for. They can be used, one, to respond to the COVID-19 public health emergency or its negative economic impacts. Two, to respond to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency by providing premium pay, grants, etc. Three, for the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue of such recipient due to COVID-19 public health emergency relative to revenues in the past. And then four, to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So those are like the general categories. And in the town of Hardwick, we haven't had a lot of expenses or related to the first three. So that leaves category 4, which is investments in water, sewer, and broadband. And we had a sewer project that John talked about in this town report that came in significantly, the bids came in significantly over our expected budget. And these funds could fill that gap and more, we hope.
And Casey's doing a training on this on the 15th of VLCT training, I think.
Yeah,
15th of September.
so we'll know more then.
Yeah.
So I guess just one thing to think about in terms of the water sewer project is if we're only getting half of those funds to be used this year, right? So that's
Yep.
we're not gonna get the $700,000 potentially.
But the project's gonna run between two
Right.
fiscal years.
So we could puzzle piece that together, right? So,
John's nodding.
okay.
No, it's a good question, I have the same.
We have a certain time to spend at, like till what,
We have 2 years.
2024, something
Yeah.
like that, so
Yeah.
that would work in with the project, with the wastewater project.
And then there has been from the CUD conversation about broadband, there's certainly a need for more broadband infrastructure as well.
There is.
I guess one of the things I'm curious about, and maybe Casey will get more information about this from the training, is just thinking about like all of the puzzle pieces of our funding for various projects and how ARPA fits in and how to maximize this one-time funding. Obviously for something like water and sewer, we have this one-time opportunity to make our water sewage plant really affordable for our community and better for our community. But I guess I would love to see, it's easy to have funding like this be kind of separate from what we've already said, from our bond, from our general fund, what we've already been saving in our capital fund. So I'd love, when we have to make a decision about that, maybe it's at the next select board meeting if we need to make a decision on the bid. But to just see this is the money that the town of Hardwick has. This is where ARPA might fit in. And then if there's anything left, this is what we're dedicating it. Because I personally have gotten quite a few people saying, hey, there's ARPA funding, can we, like, everybody in the town, every department, every committee needs money. I think it'd be really wise and helpful for us if we were able to say, this is what we can use it on. What you just said, Eric, because the first three honestly are like pretty confusing to read. It's hard to know exactly what what negative economic impacts means because it could be a lot of different things. So I think it'd be really helpful for us to say what we're the most eligible for is number 4 and this is why, just so that way we can make it clear to other projects why that's what we're spending it on. Because originally when we were having a conversation about ARPA funding, we had no idea. So we even talked about maybe it could support the swinging bridge or the town garage or, like,
Can't be used for that.
we didn't know. So now we know and we can figure out where, like how we can utilize that to the best.
And as far as broadband infrastructure, the other thing to remember is there's, right,
There's a separate,
if the next bill passes,
yeah.
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of funding in there for broadband, so.
And is this a decision that's going to be made by the select board, or is there community input into that, or, you know, where the ARPA funds should go to, or?
I believe it's the purview of the select board, but we certainly take input. So, and we don't have to, I mean, believe we do have 2 years to, I think we have 2 years to start spending and another 2 years to finish spending, something like that. We don't have to spend it urgently. We do have to figure out with some urgency how we're going to move forward with our sewer upgrade. And so there is definitely, there's the temptation to look at this money and say, wow, that dovetails really well with our sewer plant upgrade, which has a, you know, a high bid, and we don't know how we're gonna cover that gap. And here is some money, and clearly one of the eligible uses is for sewer. So definitely something we're considering. If the project was on budget as, you know, as bid, we wouldn't need all that money, right?
And if there weren't ARPA funds, would the town raise a bond? I mean, how?
They already raised the bond.
We already did a bond.
And you probably weren't here when we were discussing it, but the bond payment for the wastewater plant is primarily paid by people in the village, and they're the lowest income people in the town. And this is like a one-time opportunity to make improvements to a wastewater plant that's been here for 44 years without major improvements. And so the bond came in fairly expensive. The primary cost of that is removing sludge from the lagoons, because there's only two places one place in Canada, one place in Buffalo, New York that takes it, and the cost is huge for that. So that has driven the cost up for us. So that's the problem we're having with that. Is that the project? I don't think the town, personally, I don't see the town being able to borrow. They borrowed about, how much is the bond, about $1 million? I believe, yeah, it is.
It was more, it was like 1 point.
Yeah, 1.1 million. And so the bond payment is going to be around $80,000 a year, which is a lot of money to add to a little budget that's only probably like $400,000 to begin with. So we're trying to spread that out over time, so as the wastewater rates will go up at a reasonable rate instead of just going spiking up. And so it's going to stress the budget for the wastewater facilities substantially if we don't use something to subsidize that cost. And the people who can least afford to pay it are going to have to pay it. So that's why I'm concerned about it. I won't be here, but I'm still concerned about it. I want to make sure that we don't harm people who can't afford to pay. So did that answer your question?
No, I mean, I think it's a good argument that you're making. I think it's a good argument, but I also think that people in town really need broadband, and our economy needs broadband, and you know.
What they've said, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns have done a number of trainings on this money, and they said don't spend this money on broadband because there's going to be broadband money available for broadband.
I mean, $100,000 is going to go nowhere anyway, so.
Right, yeah.
Well, unless it helps.
I asked them, I said, well, bring the cost of broadband down if we give you $100,000, and essentially it doesn't bring it down for Hardwick, it would bring it down for all the 30 towns. So once you water that down, the $100,000 doesn't amount to anything. In the town of East Montpelier, I'm on the select board in East Montpelier, and we gave the broadband group $100,000. But they're trying to hold the cost down to like $50 a month, which is not, and I asked the folks that came here for broadband what they were going to charge, and it's going to be more than that no matter what we do. So having public funding non-borrowed money for broadband will keep the cost down. So I can understand why people might want to put that money in there, but I do think there's going to be money from the federal budget to cover that. So let's wait and see. We're going to find out more about that in a few months. So that'll add to the decision making, make it easier to make the decision probably. So.
Yeah, all right, so, and we're not making a decision on it tonight, we're just discussing it because we have somewhat clearer guidance and we finally knew what the county allocation was.
Right.
We'd known it was coming, but we didn't know how much it was.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move us on. Next is item 5, select board to execute a quitclaim deed for Lvrt easement. I still have no idea why we're doing this, but I'm willing to go along.
This is for the bridge and
Oh, that's right.
They
It's for
want
the trail. It's for the trail.
V-Trans wants to pay us $500 for an easement to go work on the trail when they could.
Just do it.
Yes.
But they don't do it that way.
this is
They
the
want
easement
an
for the
easement, so if they
bridge
ever-
transfer event, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a temporary easement.
yeah.
It's an easement, so when they do construction and if they damage the property, they have permission to be on the property. That's the way they do it with everybody, trust me.
But it's just our roadway. We don't even actually own any other property, right? I don't
Well, it's
understand.
It's $500.
Just do the quick claim, get it over with.
Well, right, sorry, so I'm off my soapbox. I don't think they need to do it, but I'm willing to sign it.
I know there was information in the drive about this, but it's not in the packet. All we have to, can we just make a motion to execute the quick claim deed for the Lvrt easement?
Well, do we want to say to have the town manager sign it? What's it look like on the bottom? Who do they want to sign it?
No, you guys have to.
They want
Oh,
to,
they put everybody down.
You guys have to sign it.
okay, so motion to execute the,
For the easement, Amanda, what's the name of, is there a name for the easement? Is there a number?
Is there a number?
Or like the.
Reference
just
it
says LVRT
explicitly.
easement.
It's LVRT 10 in parentheses.
10.
The Swanton St. Johnsbury STP LVRT, let me say it faster. The St. Johnsbury STP LVRT parentheses 10 parentheses. Quick claim deed, parcel 1. Now, the agent to convey real estate happens to be Wiz, right? So, she's gonna sign this, and if you have everybody sign it, she's signing it, so it's all legal.
No, we can't.
No, because it has to be
Has to be
notarized.
has to be
notarized.
So
notarized.
either of you are notaries.
So I'm not a notary anymore. Anybody a notary?
Notice,
Larry?
Aaron is.
Aaron's a notary.
Oh, we can
Do
sign
I
it.
notarize it if we sign
doesn't have his stamp.
Have you got his,
You don't
your
need to
stamp?
stamp it. You don't need to stamp
So are you making the motion?
Yes, the motion is to approve, is to execute the quick claim deed for the STP LVRT parentheses 10 parcel
There you
1
go.
easement.
Yeah,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's everyone.
So sign it.
Sign away. Aaron's watching, he sees we are who we are. There aren't any imposters. That's the last one. Any reports? Oh shoot, I had something and it's gone. It wasn't a report. It was like
Well,
old
the
business.
Boric grant, letter of inquiry, is that what it's called?
No, letter of intent
Letter of intent.
went in. on
Went
time.
in on time. Thank you, Helen Beatty, for all of your hard work on that.
Yeah.
That's a good
And we'll
thing.
see.
Yeah, we'll see what
This
happens.
is to Aaron.
For those who don't know, that's where Boric grant is largely, we're targeting connection from the
Outdoor
LVRT.
recreation.
LVRT to downtown Hardwick, downtown East Hardwick, and potentially a park area on the Daniels Building side of the swinging bridge for when that's replaced.
For outdoor recreation
Yeah.
in downtown. How exciting is that?
Any other select board reports? New business. Old business. We added an executive session to discuss
For
personnel to include the town manager. Can someone make a motion to send us in that to that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You too? I
Aye.
didn't hear you. Okay. So that's everyone. So motion carries. Thank you, everyone.